So I put out a Red Dead Redemption 2 video today, and I feel like it was pandering too much. Got a little bit excited, got a little bit hyped up. Red Dead Redemption is one of my favorite games of all time, and I wanted to share my love and my excitement for the sequel that's coming out on October 26th of this year. So I woke up today and I saw this post on Reddit. This was basically after I uploaded my video, and I realized I should have taken a little bit more of a critical look. Because when you put out a video on YouTube, and you only explain one side of the equation, you get called out on a lot of it, and it makes you think, yeah, I should have explored the other side of the coin. And there's a lot more to the story of Red Dead Redemption 2 and Rockstar than simply being like, oh yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to be the best game ever, and you should be excited. So I wanted to do a little bit more of a discussion video today, come to the mic right now to talk about these bullet points that are on your screen right now. Basically, Kentucky Thumb Picker, which by the way is a kick-ass name, is saying that you should get hyped for Red Dead Redemption 2, but you should also be aware of some issues that Rockstar has been going with and has put into their games and their kind of mentality as a corporation, because they do publish and make their own games. So they make the decisions and they develop the game. That's not a common thing in the industry. Usually there's a publisher and there's a developer. So because they're a single entity, their mentality spreads across more than just one side of the development or the publishing side. So basically, if you're going to be excited for Red Dead Redemption 2, then you should also know a few things about Rockstar's precedent in the past. Basically, no single-player titles in 5 years. Now, why is this important for Rockstar and Red Dead Redemption 2? I grew up in the early 2000s when, single-player games were dominating the need for making video games. Technology was not up to par with what it is today. There wasn't a need for in-game monetization models. They just hadn't been figured out yet. So single-player games were where it was at. People bought video games to play single-player campaigns. They beat the game. Maybe they played a little bit of co-op, and then they put it down. This was how it was done in the past. Somewhere along the lines, companies figured out that they could actually build a single-player game and then slice out a certain degree of content from the base game and then resell it as DLC or as a subscription-based service, or as a pre-order bonus to get you to buy something that should have been in there in the first place, right? No one wants to miss out on content, especially a gamer. Talking about let's just talk about Mass Effect 3 for a second. Who the hell wants to miss out on the Protheans, which was the main catalyst for the fucking day one DLC? If you talk about something scummy in the industry, that is basically it from BioWare. It was just this evolution from making single-player games, cutting out content, and then reselling it, disguising the resell as an upsell, basically, in any way you can. BioWare did not actually do that, so they threw it right in the middle of the fucking ocean for us, and we ate it up like candy. And there was a big controversy on the internet, and we don't look so fondly on BioWare anymore, especially since the other shit they've been doing. But anyway, single-player games have died, basically because companies have realized they could put more than one point of sale on a video game and make more money. And what that means is, if you release a single-player game today for $60, you're going to get people to buy in for that game at the checkout line, right? $60. That's it. What people have decided that is more profitable, and has been proven profitable by many research studies and just the way people make games these days, is to extend the buying process to multiple points of sales. So you have that initial point of sale for the base game, but then you also have an in-game store, a subscription, a pre-order bonus, all sorts of crap. Buy this booster, buy this weapon skin, do this because the game's grindy now. And that's one of the catalysts for putting these systems in games, right? How do you actually make a single-player game more profitable? You make more than one point of sale. And you can do that by slicing out content. I haven't seen Rockstar do too much of this, so I'm not too concerned, but the general precedent is that Rockstar is moving towards more multiplayer games. And what that means for Rockstar is that their mentality has changed as a game maker, as a game publisher, and as a developer, since they do both. Does that mean that Red Dead Redemption 2 is being built with dirty hands, knowing that they can take stuff out of the base game, they could put it in an online version of their game, they could bundle it with a pre-order? Things like this that have developed through the industry, has Rockstar kind of fallen into that poison pool as well? That's kind of the concern. And the second bullet point this guy has, which I think is a pretty interesting one, is that Scraps promised, and he's the CEO of Rockstar, single-player DLC that quietly is converted into MMO material. Now, I don't know too much about this. I know there's a video behind this link, but I do want to chime in as a creator on this kind of taking single player DLC and then, converting it to MMO material, which is kind of basically what I talked about, right? It's basically designing a component of the game that can be then monetized if you cut it out and then pushed into, and I think it's, in this case, it's GTA Online. And I think that kind of covers both of the first two bullet points here, right? Just taking stuff out of the game and converting it to a different material, be it an online component, persistent multiplayer component, or just another avenue for you to actually pay money. And we've seen this stuff from a lot, you just look at Destiny, Mass Effect, BioWare, all sorts of companies out there. It's just a smart way of doing business, right? If people continue to buy DLC content that should have been in the base game in the first place, it's only going to incentivize companies to keep doing it. So the point remains, if this sounds shady to you, then don't buy the fucking DLC. Don't buy the extensions. Don't buy the upsell content. Don't throw down your wallets in that in-game store, right? Because the only way to cure this system, and this is not saying that Rockstar is going to do any of this with Red Dead Redemption 2, by the way, the only way to cure what people are doing in this industry is to just prove it with your wallet, right? Just don't buy this stuff that's being converted into another upsell content. Now, the third bullet point here is that Rockstar sent the creative community of modders a cease and desist, even though modders have kept their game alive through the years. Now, this is a very tender subject, right? I know a lot about modding because I used to do a little bit in the past. Basically, the argument here is that a modder basically extends the life of the game. And now this is the most important thing for a video game, right? Revenue is one thing, but keeping the player base alive and growing is another beast. Having an active game that can be supported, by the way, if a game is not active, it'll never get supported. So, even if you love a video game, if there's no players in it, there's not going to be any patches, fixes, new content added to the game in the future, right? You got to have a healthy player base. And what mods do is they allow that to flourish and thrive by way of making new content, new experiences, giving GTA Online players the ability to shoot rocket launchers out of their ass, fly DeLoreans in the sky, all sorts of shit. Skyrim had, Star Wars DLC, I think, at one point, or mods or something like that. It's just creative outlets for playing the game in a new fashion. And there has been a lot of controversy in the past regarding should modders be paid for the work. Of course they should be fucking paid. They're sitting in their goddamn room on their computer making games content for games to better the games that they're servicing, right? Why not pay them? You're paying people inside development studios at Bethesda and all sorts of other companies to do the same thing. They're just making content to extend the life cycle of the game. What that does for a company is it creates strife between the modding scene and the development team and the publisher. In this case, it's both. We've seen in the past with Bethesda when they tried to silence modders and just basically make them work for free, but then a few months later they caved and said, we'll pay you a small portion of the income regarding what, if this is approved or not by our, approval process and our expert team of modding, professionals, blah, 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 right? You gotta pay people for making content in your game because you're paying employees to do the same goddamn thing. So, Rockstar has, in the past, they've kind of had problems with mods in their games because GTA is an industry icon, right? And doing mods in this game and providing extra content isn't something that has seen precedence in the past, right? People think modders are just, nerds inside dark rooms in their mom's basement, putting together textures and stuff for games. It's a completely different thing these days, right? Modders can actually make a good game better. And I'm talking about improvements to the base game. We've seen DS Fix with Dark Souls. We've seen some of the Bethesda mods make the game better. Modders can actually be more knowledgeable and more talented than an actual development team because, they're human beings too. So just keep in mind that mods and stuff like that related to online components of the games might surface in Red Dead Redemption 2, especially since they're leaning so heavily on multiplayer options and features inside this game. Now, this particular bullet point is very interesting. We're talking about working on a model of a game that encourages consumer addiction among kids. This is no fucking joke, okay? Making pay-to-win elements in games, making in-game stores, monetizing game content is dangerous, especially if it's gambling related. And this guy's talking about, underage kids. We've seen Battlefront 2 do this. We've seen the controversies of, China and the Hawaiian governments and I think the Belgian governments trying to restrict gambling systems inside games because honestly they're very detrimental not only to the financial position of those kids' parents, but also the developing of the mind for these kids, right? If this industry turns into a slot machine, you know what I mean? And every game has, some sort of gambling element to it. You could put a dollar in the slot machine and you don't know what you're going to get kind of thing. Then that could actually deaden the sensation of, people growing up as kids in terms of interactive media because games were designed, initially to get people, into an element of interactivity via a controller because, movies, which came before games, there's no control, right? You just watch the movie. You don't actually interact. You don't make any decisions. Games have the element, especially puzzle games, to kind of stimulate the brain and be good for the development of the mind. Being a gambling simulator is not one of those particular types of games. So is Red Dead Redemption 2 going to see some addictive qualities, especially since there's going to be potentially a battle royale mode where basically there's loot crates and loot boxes and keys and all sorts of stuff that's based off of in-game money, especially if they do what PUBG's doing, which I fucking hate, by the way, where you get a reward system in a game, right? A company gives you a reward for playing the game, which is called progression, by the way. You don't have the right to lock it off behind money. I hate when I get a crate in PUBG, which is a battle royale game, which if Rockstar is going to do the battle royale component with Red Dead Redemption 2, they're obviously going to look at some of these implementations. You get a crate for playing inside PUBG, but then you can't open the fucking thing because you got to buy a key on Steam for $2. I absolutely hate when in-game stores and monetization systems fuck with progression. And that's one of the big reasons why PUBG is having a lot of controversy right now because people play. You play a lot of time in PUBG. What do you get for it? You get a prison cell, basically. You got to buy stuff to open stuff that you should have been able to open by yourself. So these are some of the things that people are looking at Red Dead Redemption 2 and being like, well, I hope there's not these addictive qualities. I hope there's not gates behind content that kids can go to their mommy's credit cards and, bankrupt their parents and stuff like that. So that's one of the concerns. The other concern, of course, is the pay-to-win elements, and this is not so much in terms of Red Dead Redemption 2, which is primarily a single-player game. But yeah, Rockstar has implemented plenty of stuff in GTA Online that has been questionable in terms of making the game incredibly expensive, making the game like a full-time job, as this guy says, making the game grindy for the sake of being a grind. Grinding in video games was never a bad thing initially, right? Initially with MMOs and stuff like that, the grind was actually part of the fun because kind of everyone was on the same playing field. There was no pay-to-win element. You couldn't go to the in-game store and jump ahead. There was no Diablo 3 auction house to get items that other people were spending 24 hours grinding on. Grinding in video games with WoW and some of the early MMOs was actually part of the experience. And now it's being tied to in-game progression, and it's now becoming something of a full-time job for people because those grinding can be supplemented by actually just putting your wallet in front of your computer and being like, hey, take my fucking money. That's not a good way to design an online game, especially the shark cards and GTA Online and all that stuff. I'm hoping some of this stuff doesn't get trickled down into Red Dead Redemption 2 because really, the evolution of a Rockstar game seems to be gravitating, and this is going back to the first bullet points, it seems to be gravitating to the multiplayer game, weeding out the single player game and slowly trickling down content via monetization. And this is, GTA Online, you have just look at that for proof. I hope this is not the way Rockstar goes because Red Dead Redemption 2 was a single player game. Yeah, they had some amazing multiplayer stuff. They had the shootouts and all that sort of free roaming stuff as well. But the second you start putting in progressive elements tied to monetization is the second people are going to backlash. And I don't want that for Rockstar because they're one of the most beloved companies on the planet. Sure, they're not liked by everyone. There's a lot of people out there who think a lot of the progression stuff in GTA Online is very exploitative and money grabbing, and those people aren't wrong to some extent. But in terms of games to games, the actual product of a game, I think Rockstar is up there with one of the companies out there that people look forward to their games by a margin that outweighs EA, Ubisoft, and some of the other big time publishers by a mile. So the hope with Red Dead Redemption 2 is that they evolved the classic single player formula into the multiplayer / single player formula and the battle royale, all this other stuff. They do it in a way that sets an example, sets a precedent for the rest of the industry, which, as you guys have heard me talk about in the past many, many times, the industry is steering towards exploitative video game design and under the hood style design in which we don't know if games have been tinkered with the wrong way behind closed doors. So Rockstar can actually be the company that releases Red Dead Redemption 2 and has all this multiplayer component. It has the in-game monetization. It has the season pass. It has all this pre-order stuff in a way that actually is fair to the consumer. So that's the hope for me. So yeah, I kind of wanted to touch on these components. A lot of them have a lot of validity. And the video I put out today was kind of one-sided, and I don't like to be like that. I like to provide both sides of the argument. And this particular post by Kentucky Thumb Picker, cool name, by the way, man, was a good eye-opener for me to make sure that I, as a creator, explore the entire landscape of a discussion, not just one side. So let me know what you guys think of Red Dead Redemption 2. Let me know if you guys think this discussion of Rockstar and, single-player, evolving multiplayer monetization stuff, do you think it's going to leak into Red Dead Redemption 2? I don't know, maybe not, but I think it's a conversation that is at least worthy of being brought up. So like the video if you liked it. If you didn't, and you can like and dislike it. If you want to comment down below, let me know what you guys think. That'd be awesome as well. But I hope you guys have a great day. Peace, love, and happiness till our next video, which is probably going to be in a few days. I'm actually moving, by the way, a little slight update. This video that you see here, this room that you see me in right now, that you've seen me in a few times now in my trusty bathrobe, I'm moving. I'm moving on to a new stage of my life. It's quite personal. I'm ending relations with someone who I've spent a lot of years with, and it's personally affected me quite a bit. I'm kind of in a low space right now, and I'm going to have to start new adventures in my life. Part of me says that, it's a new period of your life. You should embrace it, and you've got a lot to look forward to in your life. And although that is true, I'm also attached to my home right now and the dogs I have and the woman I was with for a long time. So I'm not in the best frame of mind right now, and any support that you guys have shown me on Twitter and my Patreon and stuff, telling me to keep my chin up and stuff like that, I take it to heart, and I really appreciate it. Because when you go through a change in life, it's tough sometimes because you kind of get set in your ways. For me anyway, I'm really a habitual person. Once I get comfortable in an environment, I really like, I'm a house cat. I really like having things structured in a way that is making me comfortable and making me feel like I have a routine and I'm wanted and I'm in a safe space and I have this roof over my head. And once you enter a new environment and you move into a new place with new people and new sounds and new sights and a new area, it's just that can throw you for a loop, and for me that does. So I'm not sure if there's going to be a lapse in content. I hope not. I'm completing my move in the next 6 days or so, so I'm hoping to prepare some content until then, and then I can kind of move into my place, get things settled, and kind of get into a new groove in life. Life seems to come in spurts for everyone, and you go through phases in life of highs and lows. Life is just a big teardrop. You up and down and up and down and up and down, and you hope to cruise that high altitude in life. You hope to stay up on that mountain where everything is fine and dandy and things are going well and you're happy and there's no arguing and there's no there's no fighting and there's nothing bad in your life, but things happen and you just kind of have to take one day at a time, at least for me. So while I'm going through this transformative process, I hope you guys stay on board with the channel, and I hope to bring you guys great content in the future. I'm constantly trying to improve. Last couple weeks, my content sucks. I'm just going to admit it right now. It's just kind of been kind of crappy. I liked my God of War videos, but everything since then has been kind of poopy, and I'm just trying to work my way through this weird landscape of YouTube, and you guys commenting and let me know what you guys like and don't like is always helpful to me. So I'm trying to just find my way through. I'm just trying to just find my way through the mess of this entire system and try to figure out the best way to bring you guys content that's both satisfying to me and relevant to you guys and something you guys want to watch. So continue to leave me your feedback. It's very valuable to me. and I'll see you guys on the other side.